Michelle's hand trembled as she moved the light in front of Ava's face. The little girl's eyes followed it. Michelle's breath caught. That's impossible. Every doctor said Ava Hudson was born blind. No cure, no hope, no chance. But her eyes just tracked the light. And in that moment, Michelle realized something that made her blood run cold. This child wasn't born broken. Someone was breaking her. Julian Hudson's wife died the day their daughter was born. Emily didn't survive the delivery. And before Julian could even process the loss, doctors told him his newborn baby would never see. Born blind, permanently, no explanation. He tried everything: top specialists, experimental treatments, different hospitals across the country. They all said the same thing: nothing could be done. So Julian took Ava home to a house that felt like a tomb. 4 years passed in silence, curtains always closed, medication given 3 times a day, like clockwork, a routine that led nowhere. Ava didn't smile, didn't reach for toys, didn't turn towards sounds. She just sat by the window, staring at a world she'd never see. And Julian watched his daughter fade a little more every day. Then Michelle Davies answered his ad for a caregiver. 6 months earlier, Michelle had buried her infant son, 11 days old. The grief gutted her completely. She couldn't go back to nursing, couldn't face those NICU rooms without falling apart, but she needed something to hold on to. So she took the job. The first time Michelle held Ava's hand, the little girl squeezed back. Michelle had worked with blind children before. That response felt different, too aware, too connected. She started paying closer attention. The way Ava's head would turn when Michelle entered the room, not toward sound, but toward movement. The way she'd blink when light hit her face. The way she'd smile when the sun came through the window. Then, one afternoon, Michelle came home and heard soft crying from the laundry room. She opened the door. Ava was sitting on the floor in the shadows, reaching desperately toward a thin crack of light, her eyes following it as it moved. Michelle knelt down, waved her hand through the beam. Ava's eyes tracked it. "Oh my God," Michelle whispered. "You can see." And she knew this child wasn't blind. Someone was making her blind. Before we go further, like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from. Because sometimes God puts the right person in the right place at exactly the right time. And what Michelle uncovered next didn't just save one little girl. It exposed a conspiracy that would shake the medical world and save dozens of children from the same fate. Let's continue. 4 years before Michelle walked into that house, Julian Hudson had it all. A wife he loved more than anything, a baby on the way, a life most people only dream about. Emily was 8 months pregnant when she started having contractions at dinner. They rushed to the hospital, laughing nervously, holding hands in the car. This was it. They were about to become parents. But something went wrong during delivery. The baby's heart rate dropped. Emily started hemorrhaging. Doctors rushed in. Julian was pushed out of the room. He stood in that waiting area for 3 hours, praying harder than he'd ever prayed in his life. When the doctor finally came out, Julian knew before he even spoke. "Mr. Hudson, your daughter is alive, but your wife. I'm so sorry. We did everything we could." The world stopped. Julian didn't cry, didn't scream. He just stood there, feeling his entire life collapse in on itself. Then they brought him his daughter. Tiny, fragile, wrapped in a pink blanket. She had Emily's nose, Emily's chin, and she couldn't see him. The pediatrician delivered the second blow. "Your daughter has congenital optic nerve hypoplasia. She's completely blind. I'm sorry." Julian looked down at this baby, the only piece of Emily he had left, and felt something inside him break that would never fully heal. He named her Ava. Emily had picked the name months earlier. Dr. Marcus Whitmore came to see him that same day. They'd known each other for years. He was at Julian's wedding, a trusted family friend. "I'll take care of her," Marcus promised. "We'll start treatment right away. Specialized eye drops, medications. I won't give up on her." Julian clung to those words like a lifeline. He brought Ava home to a house that felt wrong without Emily in it. Her clothes still hung in the closet. Her coffee cup sat by the sink. The nursery they'd painted together now felt like a room full of broken dreams. Julian went through the motions. Feeding, diaper changes, Medication schedule eye drops 3 times a day, every day, exactly as Dr. Whitmore prescribed. But Ava didn't respond to anything. She didn't smile when he talked to her, didn't turn toward his voice, didn't reach for the toys he'd put in her crib. She just stared at nothing. Months turned into years. Julian stopped opening the curtains. Light felt like an insult when his daughter couldn't see it. He stopped having people over, stopped going to the office, started working from home, buried in conference calls that didn't matter. The staff moved quietly through the house, speaking in whispers, like they were afraid to disturb the grief that had settled into every room. Julian's days became a loop he couldn't break. Wake up, medication, doctor appointments that showed no progress, therapy sessions where Ava sat motionless, sleep, repeat. Dr. Whitmore kept adjusting the prescriptions, adding new medications, vitamin injections, neurological supplements. These things take time, he'd say. We're doing everything we can. But nothing changed. Ava turned 2, then 3, then 4, and she still didn't see. Still didn't smile. Still lived in a world Julian couldn't reach. He'd sit by her window sometimes, watching her small face turned toward glass she couldn't see through, and wonder if this was his punishment. If God took Emily and Ava's sight because Julian didn't deserve them. The guilt ate at him slowly. The what-ifs, the if-onlys. If only he'd gotten Emily to the hospital sooner. If only he'd chosen a different doctor. If only he'd prayed harder, tried harder, been better. 4 years of that kind of thinking turns a house into a prison. And Julian was serving a life sentence. Then one October morning, Michelle Davies walked through his door. She had sad eyes, the kind that recognized his pain without him having to explain it. When she told him she'd lost a child too, something shifted. Not hope, he'd buried that a long time ago, but something else, something quiet. Maybe understanding, maybe just the smallest crack in the wall he'd built around himself. He hired her, gave her the same instructions he'd given every caregiver before her. Follow Dr. Whitmore's medication schedule. Don't miss a dose, don't get attached. But Michelle didn't follow those rules. She got attached the first day she held Ava's hand, and she started asking questions no one else had bothered to ask. Michelle's first week was all routine. Mrs. Chen walked her through everything. Ava's schedule was rigid, non-negotiable. 7 in the morning, wake up, eye drops. Breakfast with vitamin supplements mixed into her food. Mid-morning therapy exercises that Ava barely responded to. 1 o'clock, second round of eye drops. Afternoon, sensory activities, textures, sounds, things meant to stimulate a brain that seemed unreachable. 7 at night, final eye drops, neurological supplements with dinner, then bed. Every single day. For 4 years. Michelle followed the routine exactly, but she watched. She'd been a pediatric nurse long enough to know what blind children looked like, how they moved, how they responded to the world. Ava was different. On day 3, Michelle was cleaning Ava's room. She accidentally knocked a book off the shelf. It hit the floor with a soft thud. Ava's head turned before the sound. Michelle froze. Wait. She turned before it fell. She didn't say anything, just filed it away in the back of her mind. Day 5. Michelle walked into Ava's room wearing a bright yellow sweater. Ava's face changed, just slightly, like she registered something. "Hi, sweetheart," Michelle said softly. Ava tilted her head, not toward Michelle's voice, toward Michelle. It was small, but it was there. Michelle started testing things, quietly, carefully. She'd move around the room without making noise. Sometimes Ava would track her, sometimes she wouldn't. She'd open the curtains to let light in. Ava would blink, rapidly, like the brightness bothered her. One afternoon, sunlight poured through the window after days of clouds. Ava turned her face toward it and smiled. Michelle's heart skipped. Blind children could feel warmth. That was normal. But this felt like more than warmth. This felt like Ava saw the light. That night, Michelle couldn't sleep. She pulled out her laptop and started searching. Congenital blindness, reactions to light. Visual impairment, inconsistent responses. Blind children, developmental milestones. She read medical journals until 2 in the morning. watched videos of other blind children, compared their movements to Ava's. They were different. Ava was more aware, more connected, like she was trying to see through fog instead of complete darkness. Michelle looked at the medication bottles lined up on Ava's dresser, all prescribed by Dr. Whitmore. She picked one up, read the label. The names were long, medical, some she didn't recognize from nursing school. She took photos of every bottle, planned to research them later. The next day, Michelle tried something else. She brought colorful toys from the playroom, a red ball, a bright yellow stuffed duck, a blue rattle. She moved them slowly across Ava's line of sight during playtime. At first, nothing. Then the yellow duck passed by and Ava's eyes shifted. Just barely, but they moved. "Oh, baby," Michelle whispered. "You see something, don't you?" She wanted to tell Julian, wanted to shake him and say, "Look at your daughter. Really, look." But she tried once. It was evening. Julian was in his study, door half open. Michelle knocked softly. "Mr. Hudson, can I ask you something?" He looked up from his computer, tired eyes barely focused. "What is it? Has Ava ever shown any response to visual things? Light? Movement?" His face hardened immediately. "No, never. The doctors were very clear. It's just, today I noticed she seemed to react when—" "Miss Davies," his voice went cold. "I've spent 4 years chasing maybes, every tiny movement, every small change, looking for signs that weren't there." He stood up, walked to the window. "I won't do that anymore. I can't." "I understand, but please, just follow Dr. Whitmore's instructions. Give her the medication. Keep her comfortable. That's all I'm asking." Michelle left the study with a knot in her stomach. She went back to Ava's room, looked at that little girl sitting by the window, so still, so quiet. Something was wrong here. She felt it in her bones. That night, Michelle photographed every medication label, every dosage, every instruction. She didn't know what she was looking for yet, but she was going to find out. Because if there was even a chance, even the smallest possibility that Ava could see, Michelle wasn't going to let it go. She'd already lost one child. She wasn't going to watch another one disappear without a fight. Michelle waited until the house went quiet. Julian was in his study. Door closed. The staff had gone home for the night. Just her and Ava and the weight of a question she couldn't shake. She pulled out her laptop, opened the photos of the medication labels, started typing the names into medical databases. The first one came up: atropine sulfate ophthalmic drops, used for dilating pupils during eye exams. Standard dose, 0.01%. Michelle scrolled down to Ava's prescription strength, 0.5%. Her stomach dropped. That was 50 times stronger than normal. She kept reading. Side effects: severe light sensitivity, blurred vision, prolonged pupil dilation, in high doses, vision impairment. "No," Michelle whispered. "No, no, no." She checked the other medications. The vitamin supplements contained mild sedatives. The neurological medications were suppressants, things that dulled reflexes, made a child lethargic. Every single prescription worked together. Not to heal, to numb, to blind, to keep Ava in the dark. Michelle's hands shook as she stared at the screen. This wasn't treatment, this was poison. But why? Why would a doctor do this? She thought about Dr. Whitmore, Julian's friend, trusted, respected. Then she thought about the bills she'd seen on Julian's desk, hundreds of thousands of dollars, insurance covering most of it, endless treatments, endless medications. A child who never got better meant ongoing care, ongoing payments. Her chest tightened. Oh my God, he's doing this on purpose. Michelle closed the laptop, stood up, paced her room. She needed proof, real proof, not just research and suspicion. She needed to show Julian something undeniable. She grabbed a flashlight from her nightstand and walked down the hall to Ava's room. The little girl was awake, sitting up in bed, staring toward the window where moonlight filtered through thin curtains. "Hey, baby," Michelle whispered. "Can't sleep?" Ava didn't answer, just turned her head slightly. Michelle knelt beside the bed. I'm going to try something, okay? Don't be scared. She clicked on the flashlight, kept it low at first, moved it slowly from left to right. Ava blinked. Her eyes followed the beam. Michelle's breath caught. She moved it again, faster this time. Ava's head turned, following, tracking. You can see it, Michelle breathed. Can't you, sweetheart? She made the light dance on the wall, a circle, a zigzag, and Ava smiled, a real, genuine smile. She reached out with both hands, trying to touch the light. Tears streamed down Michelle's face. Oh, baby girl. Oh, my sweet girl. Then Ava did something that broke Michelle completely. She looked right at Michelle, focused, clear, and whispered, Mama? Michelle pulled her close, held her tight. I'm here. I'm right here. Mama, Ava said again, stronger this time. Pretty light. Yes, baby, it's pretty. And you can see it. You can see. Michelle rocked her gently, crying into her hair. I'm going to save you. I promise. No more medicine that hurts you. No more darkness. She pulled back, looked at Ava's face in the dim light. Those pale blue eyes weren't blank anymore. They were looking at her, really looking. I see you, Ava whispered. I see you too, Angel. That's when Michelle heard footsteps in the hallway. She turned. Julian stood in the doorway. His face was white, confused, then angry. He looked at the flashlight in Michelle's hand, the printed research papers on the dresser, the way Ava was looking at Michelle, really looking. What the hell are you doing to my daughter? Michelle stood slowly, heart pounding. This was it. Everything was about to change. Mr. Hudson, she said quietly, I need you to listen to me. Your daughter isn't blind. Get out. She can see. And the medication you've been giving her. I said get out of my house. Michelle picked up the flashlight, turned it on, held it in front of Ava. The little girl smiled, reached toward the light, her eyes tracking it perfectly. Julian's legs buckled. He grabbed the doorframe to keep from falling. That's not. She can't. His voice broke. The doctors said. Michelle's voice was steady, gentle. The doctors lied. Julian sank to the floor, just dropped to his knees right there in the doorway. He stared at his daughter, at the way her eyes followed the light, the way she reached for it, smiled at it. 4 years of darkness, and she could see. I don't understand, he whispered. They told me. Marcus told me. Michelle knelt beside him, handed him the printed research. Look at these medications. Really, look. Julian's hands shook as he read, his eyes scanning the words, the dosages, the side effects. Severe light sensitivity, blurred vision, vision impairment. No, he breathed. No, this has to be wrong. It's not wrong, Mr. Hudson. These aren't treating her, they're hurting her. Julian looked up at Michelle. His eyes were red, broken. Marcus prescribed these. He was at my wedding. He held Ava when she was born. He's my friend. I know. He wouldn't. He couldn't. But even as he said it, doubt crept in. The years of no progress, the endless appointments, the massive bills. Always more medications, always more treatments, never any results. Julian's voice cracked. Oh God, what have I done? This isn't your fault. I gave her this poison, every day, for 4 years. I trusted him and His words dissolved into sobs. Michelle put a hand on his shoulder. You trusted a doctor. That's what parents do. I should have questioned it. Should have. You were grieving. You were drowning. You did what you thought was right. Julian looked at Ava. She was watching him now, really watching. Her little face turned toward his voice, her eyes trying to focus. Daddy, she whispered. Julian's whole body went still. He stared at her. What did you say? Daddy. Clearer this time. He crawled to her bedside, took her small hands in his. Baby, can you see me? Ava squinted. Her vision wasn't clear, but she was looking at him, at his face. Daddy's sad, she said softly. Julian broke completely, pulled her into his arms and sobbed into her hair. 4 years of silence. 4 years of believing she'd never know him, never see his face, never say his name. and she'd just said Daddy. Michelle backed away quietly, gave them space, watched this father hold his daughter like he was afraid she'd disappear. After a long moment, Julian looked up. His face was wet, raw. "What do we do?" he asked. "If we stop the medications? What if it hurts her? What if we don't stop them?" Michelle said gently. "What if every day we wait, we're hurting her more?" Julian looked at the medication bottles on the dresser, all lined up, 4 years of routine. He stood slowly, walked over, picked them up one by one. "No more," he said quietly. "No more of this." He looked at Michelle. "Starting tomorrow, we stop everything. What about Dr. Whitmore?" Julian's jaw tightened. "I'll deal with Marcus." But even as he said it, something cold settled in his chest. If Marcus had done this deliberately, if he'd been poisoning Ava for years, then this wasn't just malpractice. This was something darker. "Mr. Hudson," Michelle said carefully, "if he did this on purpose, we need to be careful. We need proof." Julian nodded. His mind was already spinning, already thinking through what came next. But right now, in this moment, only one thing mattered. He turned back to Ava. She was still looking at him, still trying to focus on his face. "Hi, baby girl," he whispered. "Hi, Daddy." And for the first time in 4 years, Julian Hudson felt something he'd thought was gone forever. Hope. The first morning, without medication, Julian didn't sleep at all. He sat in a chair beside Ava's bed, watching her breathe, terrified. What if Michelle was wrong? What if stopping the medication made things worse? But when Ava woke up, something was different. Her eyes opened clearer, more focused. She looked around the room like she was seeing it for the first time. "Daddy?" Julian leaned forward. "I'm here, baby." "Window," she pointed. "Bright." Julian's throat tightened. She could see the window, see the morning light coming through. "Yes, sweetheart, that's the sun." Ava smiled. A real smile, not the blank, distant expression he'd seen for years. She was waking up. By day 3, the changes were undeniable. Ava started reaching for things. Her cup, her stuffed bear, the blanket on her bed. Not guessing, actually reaching for what she saw. Michelle brought her colorful picture books. Ava pointed at the images. Red, blue, yellow. "That's right, baby," Michelle said, tears in her eyes. "Those are colors. Pretty colors." Julian watched from the doorway, watched his daughter come alive in ways he'd stopped believing were possible. She wasn't just seeing light anymore. She was seeing shapes, colors, faces. One afternoon, Ava walked to the window by herself, put her small hand on the glass. "Daddy, what's that?" She pointed outside. Julian came to stand beside her. "Those are trees, sweetheart, and flowers." "Mama's flowers?" His breath caught. "How did you?" Ava pointed to a photo on her dresser. Emily in a red dress, standing in the garden. "You told me, before. You said Mama loved flowers." Julian knelt down, looked at his daughter's face. She was looking back at him, really looking. "You remember that?" "I couldn't see before, but I heard. I always heard you, Daddy." He pulled her close. "I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so sorry I didn't know." "It's okay." She patted his face with her small hand. "I can see now." Michelle found them like that, father and daughter, holding each other by the window. She didn't interrupt, just watched, and felt her own heart breaking and healing at the same time. Later that evening, after Ava fell asleep, Julian and Michelle sat in the living room. The house felt different now, lighter, like something had shifted. "I tried calling Marcus today," Julian said quietly. "His office said he's unavailable." "Unavailable?" "On sabbatical. No return date. No way to reach him." Michelle's stomach turned. "That's convenient." Julian looked at her. "You think he knows? That we figured it out?" "I don't know, but it's strange timing." Julian stood, walked to the window. 4 years, Michelle. 4 years I paid him millions, trusted him with my daughter's life. And he was. He couldn't finish the sentence. "We need to find out if there are others," Michelle said softly. Julian turned. "Others?" "Other children, other families. If he did this to Ava, what if she's not the only one?" The thought made Julian sick. How do we find out? I can reach out. Online support groups for parents of blind children. See if anyone else was treated by Dr. Whitmore. Julian nodded slowly. Do it. And I'll hire investigators, financial experts. If Marcus was billing insurance for fraudulent treatments, there'll be a paper trail. Michelle stood. Mr. Hudson. Julian, please, after everything. Just call me Julian. She nodded. Julian, if we do this, if we go after him, it's going to get ugly. I know. He'll fight back. People like that always do. Julian's eyes hardened. Let him fight. He poisoned my daughter. He stole 4 years of her life. 4 years of mine. His voice dropped. I don't care how powerful he is. I don't care what it costs. I'm going to make sure he never does this to another child. Michelle saw something in his face she hadn't seen before. Not just grief anymore. Anger, purpose, fire. Then we do this together, she said. Julian looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his life a month ago, who'd seen what no one else saw, who'd saved his daughter when he couldn't. Thank you, he said quietly, for not giving up on her. I couldn't give up on her. She reminded me too much of. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. Julian understood. Your son. Michelle nodded. I couldn't save him, but maybe I could save her. They stood in silence for a moment, two broken people who'd found purpose in each other's pain. Then Julian's phone buzzed. Unknown number. Text message. He opened it. His face went pale. What is it? Michelle asked. Julian showed her the screen. Stop asking questions. You don't know what you're interfering with. Another message came through. Some people don't wake up from the darkness. Be careful yours doesn't go back to sleep. Michelle's blood ran cold. He's threatening Ava. Julian's hand clenched around the phone. Then he just made the biggest mistake of his life. Michelle found 3 families online. 3 mothers who mentioned Dr. Marcus Whitmore by name, all in Connecticut, all desperate for answers about their blind children. She reached out to one, a woman named Sarah Bennett. They met at a coffee shop in Hartford 2 days later. Sarah brought files, medical records, bills, photographs of her 5-year-old son, James. Dr. Whitmore said James was born blind, Sarah explained, hands wrapped around her coffee cup. We've been seeing him since James was 3 months old. Michelle's chest tightened. What medications is he on? Sarah pulled out a list. Michelle's hands went cold as she read it. The same prescriptions, the exact same dosages, everything Ava had been taking. How much have you spent? Michelle asked quietly. Close to $2 million. The insurance covers most of it. But, Sarah's voice cracked, we've done everything he told us. Every treatment, every medication. Nothing's worked. Michelle reached across the table, took Sarah's hand. Has James ever responded to light? Sarah hesitated. Sometimes I think. But Dr. Whitmore says I'm imagining things. That false hope is cruel. You're not imagining it. Michelle told her everything. About Ava, the medications, the research, how Ava's vision was coming back after they stopped the treatments. Sarah's face went pale. You're saying Marcus has been blinding my son? I'm saying you need to get a second opinion from a doctor who isn't connected to Dr. Whitmore. Sarah started crying, right there in the coffee shop. Quiet, broken sobs. 5 years, she whispered. 5 years I've trusted him. Michelle held her hand tighter. I know. I'm so sorry. When Michelle got home, Julian was waiting in the living room. I found something, he said. His voice was hollow. He showed her the investigator's report. Dr. Whitmore had treated 14 children in the past 7 years, all diagnosed as incurably blind, all on similar medication regimens, all from wealthy families or families with extensive insurance coverage. 14 children, Julian said. 14. Michelle sank onto the couch. Oh my God. The billing records show millions. Insurance claims for experimental treatments, medications that cost thousands per month. Julian's hands were shaking. He created patients who'd never get better, children who'd need care for life. It's not just malpractice, Michelle whispered. It's evil. Julian's voice was hard, cold. That's what it is. They sat in silence. the weight of it crushing. 14 children, 14 families, years of stolen sight, stolen hope. "We have to tell someone," Michelle said. "The police, the medical board, someone. I already called my attorney. He's connecting us with the FBI, white-collar crime division." Michelle looked at him. "The FBI? This is fraud on a massive scale. Insurance fraud, medical fraud, and," his voice dropped, "child endangerment." Another text came through on Julian's phone. Unknown number again. "Last warning, walk away or everyone gets hurt." Julian showed it to Michelle. "He's scared. That's why he's threatening us. Or he's dangerous." "I don't care." Julian's eyes were fierce. "He hurt my daughter. He hurt other children. I'm not backing down." Michelle thought about Ava, about Sarah's son, about 12 other children out there still taking those medications, still living in darkness they didn't have to live in. "Neither am I," she said. That night, Michelle checked on Ava before bed. The little girl was asleep, curled up with her stuffed bear, her face peaceful, no longer blank. Michelle sat on the edge of the bed, brushed hair from Ava's forehead. "You're safe now, baby," she whispered. "I promise." But even as she said it, fear coiled in her stomach. Dr. Whitmore was out there somewhere, watching, threatening, and they were about to go to war with him. Michelle thought about her son, the 11 days she'd had with him, how she'd prayed for a miracle that never came. Maybe this was her miracle, not bringing her son back, but saving someone else's child. Saving 14 children. She kissed Ava's forehead. "I won't let him hurt you again." When she left the room, Julian was standing in the hallway. "Can't sleep either?" he asked. "No." They walked downstairs together, sat in the dim living room. "I keep thinking about Emily," Julian said quietly, "about what she'd say if she knew." "What would she say?" "That I should have seen it sooner, should have protected Ava better." Michelle shook her head. "She'd say you're protecting her now. That's what matters." Julian looked at her, really looked. "You saved her life, Michelle. You know that, right?" "We saved her. Together." Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding. Connection. Two people who'd lost everything, who'd found purpose in each other's pain. "Whatever happens next," Julian said, "I'm glad you're here." Michelle nodded. "Me too." Outside, the night was quiet. But inside, everything was about to break, wide open. Michelle reached out to 2 more families. Both had children under Dr. Whitmore's care, both on the same medications, both told their children would never see. One mother, Lisa Chen, agreed to meet them at Julian's house. She came with her husband and her 3-year-old daughter, Emma. The little girl sat in her father's lap, motionless, staring at nothing. Michelle's heart broke looking at her. "We've been seeing Dr. Whitmore for 2 years, Lisa said. Her voice was tired, defeated. "He told us Emma has no optic nerve development, that nothing can be done." Julian leaned forward. "Have you ever noticed her responding to light, to movement?" Lisa hesitated. "Sometimes, but the doctor says it's just reflexes, not real vision." Michelle knelt in front of Emma, pulled out a small flashlight. "May I?" she asked the parents. They nodded. Michelle clicked it on, moved it slowly in front of Emma's face. The little girl's eyes followed it. Lisa gasped. She can see it," Michelle said gently. Lisa started crying. Her husband put his arm around her, his own eyes wet. 2 years, Lisa whispered. 2 years we've been giving her those medications." Julian showed them the research, the lab reports, the dosage information. "These aren't helping her," he said quietly. "They're keeping her blind." By the end of the week, they'd found 7 families. 7 children, all between ages 2 and 6, all diagnosed as incurably blind. All prescribed the same toxic combination of medications. Julian's investigators uncovered the financial trail. Dr. Whitmore had billed insurance companies over $40 million across 15 years. $40 million for treatments that didn't work, for medications that caused harm instead of healing. The FBI opened an investigation, but Dr. Whitmore was still missing. No one knew where he was. And the threats kept coming. Julian's car was keyed in a parking garage. Someone hacked into his email. Fake articles appeared online calling him a bitter father trying to destroy a respected doctor's career. Michelle received messages on her phone. "You're going to regret this. Leave it alone. Accidents happen." One morning, Michelle came downstairs to find Ava sitting at the kitchen table with Julian. They were looking at a picture book together. Ava was pointing at the images, naming colors. "That's green, Daddy, like the trees outside." "That's right, baby." Ava looked up and saw Michelle. Her whole face lit up. "Mama!" She'd started calling Michelle that a week ago, and every time, it made Michelle's chest ache in the best way. "Good morning, sweetheart." Ava ran to her, wrapped her small arms around Michelle's legs. "I love you, Mama." Michelle picked her up, held her close. "I love you too, baby girl." Julian watched them, something soft in his expression. Later, after Ava went to play in her room, Julian poured coffee for both of them. "She's getting stronger every day," he said. "I know. Her vision's still not perfect, but she can see colors now, shapes, faces." Michelle nodded. "It's a miracle." "No." Julian looked at her. "You're the miracle. You saved her when I couldn't. You would have figured it out eventually." "No, I wouldn't have." His voice was honest, raw. "I'd given up. I was just existing, going through motions." He set down his cup. "You brought life back into this house, into my daughter, into me." Michelle felt her throat tighten. "I don't know how to thank you," Julian continued. "How to even begin to." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do." He stepped closer. "Michelle, you've given me everything back. My daughter, my hope, my reason to keep going." Something shifted in the air between them. "I know this isn't the time," Julian said quietly. "We're in the middle of a fight. Everything's chaos. But I need you to know." He paused, searched for words. "You're not just Ava's caregiver anymore. You're family. You're everything." Michelle's eyes filled with tears. 6 months ago, she'd been drowning in grief, certain she'd never feel whole again. Now she stood in this kitchen, with this man and his daughter, and felt something she thought was gone forever. Purpose, connection, love. "You're my family too," she whispered. Julian reached out, took her hand. They stood like that for a moment, two broken people who'd found healing in each other. Then Ava's voice called from upstairs, "Mama, Daddy, come see." They went upstairs together, found Ava standing at her window, pointing outside. "Look, the flowers are blooming." Julian and Michelle looked out at Emily's garden, the one that had been overgrown and forgotten for years. Spring had brought it back to life. Tulips, daffodils, colors everywhere. "Your mama planted those," Julian told Ava softly. "They're beautiful," Ava said. Then she looked up at Michelle. "Can we go outside? I want to see them up close." Michelle smiled through tears. "Yes, baby, we can go see them." The three of them walked down to the garden together. Ava ran ahead, laughing, touching the flowers, marveling at colors she'd spent years unable to see. Julian stood beside Michelle, watching his daughter discover the world. "Emily would have loved this," he said quietly. "I think she's watching," Michelle replied. "I think she knows Ava's okay now." Julian took Michelle's hand, squeezed it. They stood in Emily's garden, watching Ava spin in the sunlight, and felt something neither had felt in years. Peace. But they both knew this peace wouldn't last. The fight was just beginning, and Dr. Marcus Whitmore was still out there, hiding, planning, waiting. The story hit the New York Times on a Tuesday morning. Prominent pediatric ophthalmologist accused of deliberately blinding children in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. By noon, it was everywhere. Every news channel, every website, social media exploding with outrage. Julian's phone rang non-stop. Reporters, lawyers, parents from across the country asking if their children had been victims too. Michelle sat with Ava in the living room, trying to keep her calm while chaos erupted outside. News vans lined the street, cameras pointed at the house. "Mama, why are all those people here?" Ava asked. Michelle pulled her close. "Because we're helping other children, baby. Children like you. Children who couldn't see?" "Yes, sweetheart." Ava was quiet for a moment, Then she said, "I'm glad they're going to see now too." Michelle kissed the top of her head. This child who'd suffered for 4 years was worried about other children. Julian came in from his study. His face was tight. They found him. Michelle looked up. "Whitmore?" FBI picked him up at a private airport in New Jersey. He was trying to leave the country. Relief and rage warred in Michelle's chest. "Good. There's more." Julian sat down heavily. "They found records. 14 children confirmed. Maybe more. And it wasn't just him." "What do you mean?" 2 other doctors were involved, and a pharmaceutical company executive. They had deals, kickbacks, create lifelong patients, split the insurance money. Michelle felt sick. How could they? "I don't know." Julian's voice was hollow. "I don't understand how people do this." The next few weeks were a blur. Dr. Whitmore was charged with 47 counts of fraud, conspiracy, and child endangerment. The trial was set for 4 months out. But more families kept coming forward. 19 children total. 19 families destroyed by greed disguised as medicine. Julian and Michelle were asked to testify before Congress, a hearing on medical fraud and patient protections. They sat at a long table, microphones in front of them, cameras everywhere. Julian spoke first, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "My daughter spent 4 years in darkness because a man I trusted saw her as a paycheck, not a child, not a human being, a revenue stream." He paused, gathered himself. "How many other children are out there right now, taking medications that hurt instead of heal, trapped in systems that profit from their pain?" The room was silent. Then Michelle spoke. "I lost my son 6 months before I met Ava, and I thought that pain, that grief had no purpose, that it was just emptiness." Her voice caught. "But God put me in that house for a reason. He gave me eyes to see what others missed, not because I'm special, but because I'd already lost everything. So I had nothing left to lose by asking questions." She looked directly at the camera. "If you're a parent and something feels wrong, trust that. Ask questions. Demand answers. Don't let anyone tell you that your instincts don't matter." The hearing ended with standing applause. That night, Julian found Michelle in Emily's garden. She was sitting on a bench, watching Ava chase fireflies in the twilight. "You were amazing today," he said, sitting beside her. "So were you." They watched Ava together, her laughter filling the air, her eyes tracking the blinking lights. "I never thought I'd hear her laugh like that," Julian said quietly. "She's free now. Because of you." Michelle shook her head. "Because God didn't give up on her. Even when we couldn't see the way forward, He did." Julian took her hand. "Michelle, I need to tell you something." She turned to look at him. "When Emily died, I thought my life was over, that the best parts were behind me." His voice was thick with emotion. "But you brought light back into the darkest place I've ever been. Julian, I love you." The words came out raw, honest. "I love the way you love my daughter, the way you fought for her, the way you see the world." Tears slid down Michelle's cheeks. "I know it's complicated," he continued. "I know we've been through hell together, but I can't imagine my life without you in it anymore." Michelle touched his face. "I love you too. I think I have for a while now." He leaned his forehead against hers. "Will you stay? Not as Ava's caregiver, as my partner, my family." "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." Ava ran over, breathless and smiling. "Mama, Daddy, did you see the lights?" Julian scooped her up. "We saw, baby girl. They're so pretty. Everything's so pretty now." Michelle wrapped her arms around both of them. And standing there in that garden, the 3 of them together, she felt it. Redemption. Not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that transforms it into something beautiful. Something worth fighting for. Dr. Marcus Whitmore was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison. The judge's words were final. "You betrayed the most sacred trust in medicine. You harmed children for profit. This court shows you no mercy." Julian sat in that courtroom with Michelle beside him and felt something release in his chest. Not joy, not satisfaction, just closure. Justice had been served, but it couldn't give back the years, couldn't undo the damage. All they could do was move forward. 6 months later, Julian and Michelle stood in Emily's garden. The same garden where Julian had proposed. This time, folding chairs lined the grass. Close friends, the families they'd helped, the prosecutors who'd fought for justice, and Ava wearing a white dress with flowers in her hair holding a basket of petals. The officiant began. We're gathered here today to witness the joining of two people who found each other in the darkest season of their lives. Julian looked at Michelle. She was crying already. Happy tears this time. He took her hands. I thought I'd lost everything, he said, his voice thick. My wife, my hope, my daughter's future. But God had a plan I couldn't see. He brought you into our lives when we needed you most, and somewhere along the way, you became my everything. Michelle squeezed his hands. I thought my pain had no purpose, that losing my son was just senseless tragedy. Her voice broke. But God used that grief to save your daughter, to save other children. He took my broken heart and made it into something that could heal. She wiped her eyes. You and Ava didn't just give me a family. You gave me a reason to believe again. When they kissed, Ava cheered loudest of all, threw petals in the air that she could finally see. Later, at the reception, Sarah Bennett approached them with her son James. The little boy was wearing glasses now, running around with other kids, laughing. He starts school next month, Sarah said, tears in her eyes. Real school, with other kids, because of you. Because we all fought together, Michelle replied. Other families came, shared their stories, their children's progress. Emma Chen was painting now, colors everywhere, making up for lost time. A 6-year-old boy named Michael was learning to read, large print books, but reading. Not every child regained full vision. The damage had been done. But they were all seeing more than they had, living more fully. And new laws were being passed because of them. Mandatory second opinions, prescription oversight, patient protections. Ava's law, they called it in New York. One life saved had become dozens. Dozens had become systemic change. That evening, after the guests left, Julian and Michelle stood at Ava's bedroom door. She was asleep, her stuffed bear tucked under one arm, moonlight streaming through the window she'd spent years sitting beside in darkness. I used to stand here and pray for a miracle, Julian whispered, begged God to heal her. He did, Michelle said softly, just not the way you expected. Julian pulled her close. He sent you. They adopted Ava together the following month, made Michelle her legal mother in every way. When the judge finalized it, Ava threw her arms around Michelle's neck. You're really my mama now. I've always been your mama, baby. Now it's just official. 1 year later, Michelle found Julian in his study late at night. Can't sleep? She asked. Just thinking. He gestured to his computer screen. The Emily Hudson Foundation website. Testimonials from families they'd helped. Photos of children who were thriving now. 23 children recovered partial vision. 14 families received financial restitution. Laws changed in 8 states. He looked at Michelle. All because you refused to look away. All because God put me exactly where I needed to be. She sat on his lap, rested her head against his. You know what I realized? What? My son lived 11 days. That's all I got. But those 11 days taught me to recognize suffering, to fight for children who can't fight for themselves. Her voice was gentle. He had a purpose. Even though he's gone, his life meant something. Julian kissed her forehead. He'd be proud of his mama. They went upstairs together, checked on Ava one more time. She was sprawled across her bed now, growing so fast. 7 years old, 1st grade, art class twice a week, friends who came over for playdates. A normal childhood, the one she'd almost been robbed of. Michelle tucked the blanket around her, kissed her forehead, and thought about all the paths that led here, the grief, the loss, the questions that wouldn't stay quiet. She'd lost a son, but gained a daughter, lost her way, but found her purpose. God hadn't erased her pain. He'd transformed it, made it into something that could save others, heal others, change the world just a little bit. That's what love does, real love, the kind that costs something. It doesn't erase darkness, it becomes light inside it. And sometimes when we're broken enough to let him, God uses our pain to write the most beautiful stories. Stories about sight restored, hope renewed, families healed. Stories about ordinary people who refuse to accept that darkness is permanent. Who fight, who question, who love fiercely, even when it hurts. Michelle turned off Ava's light, closed the door softly. Tomorrow, Ava would wake up to sunlight, to colors, to a world she could finally see. And Michelle would wake up beside the man she loved, in a house that felt like home, with a daughter who called her Mama. Not because life was perfect, but because God took their broken pieces and made them into something whole, something beautiful, something that looked exactly like redemption,